Matt, what are we talking about this week on HorseCenter? I think we're talking about all the big performances from last weekend and maybe a preview of a stakes race this week.
Yep. We got to talk about the news with Justify in there also, and we're previewing the historic Delaware Handicap.
Big performances last week, Justify and the Del Cap. Don't miss it all on HorseCenter. Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the fantastic pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt? Where are you today, Matt?
I'm really good, Brian. I am still on the East Coast, but way up north on the East Coast. I'm on a little vacation in Maine. So here I am sitting on the edge of the bed in the hotel room, but we got to get HorseCenter to the fans.
The show must go on. I appreciate that. Greetings to you there in Maine, Matt. Now, we taped this show yesterday, which was Tuesday morning. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties with the audio. Matt, there has been some racing news that's happened since last we tried to tape this show, Wednesday morning. Of course, I speak about the unbeaten Triple Crown winner, the son of Scat Daddy, trained by Bob Baffert, Justify. News came in from California that he's had some filling in an ankle twice now, I guess. He had some, he got back to training, he has it again. It certainly leaves in doubt the racing career, the future racing career of Justify. Matt, I don't have to be a huge conspiracy theorist to wonder if this was kind of the plan all along, and maybe Justify was never meant to run after he won the Belmont Stakes and the Triple Crown.
I don't think I can argue with that on Brian, and I guess I'm not surprised to hear this announcement with some specific issues that are going on with him. Obviously, these are nothing significant, but they are enough to keep him out of training. They're enough to question, how long does it take to recover from this, being that we're in July already and the Breeders' Cup is only 4 months away and he needs another race. So I don't want to get fans upset. I don't want them to think that I want Justify to retire, but it's starting to look like we may not see the Triple Crown winner on the track again.
Half glass empty, Matt. I think there's good reason to feel that way. He's just worth so much money. And frankly, as much as racing fans want to see Justify run again, certainly racing fans do not want to see Justify come back at less than 100%. Now, as far as the season goes, the Haskell looks like it's out. The Travers is definitely in jeopardy now. If those indeed were serious goals for Justify this summer, looking forward, we'd hope he'd get back in training soon and get at least one good race in wherever that may be before the Breeders' Cup Classic run. So we're still hoping to see Justify, but it seems like there has been some groundwork made, whether it be unfortunate circumstances with the horse's health or deeper rooted plans by his connections that probably it's best not to run Justify again. We'll see, Matt. Again, rooting to see this undefeated Triple Crown winner, this excellent young horse, come back and run again, but we also want to see him only if he's 100%.
Yeah, these are just these are the little kinds of things that happen to horses when they're out on the track. And as we know, he ran 6 races in a short amount of time. So, it's not surprising that something like this happened, but it takes time to get over them.
Matt, Justify news aside, let's talk about a huge weekend of good racing that happened last weekend. It was a carryover from the July 4th holiday. Of course, the biggest of the big was Stars and Stripes Day at Belmont Park on Saturday, which I believe you attended. But let's start somewhere else. Let's start a little south of New York, Delaware Park. We talked about the 3-year-old filly class and how it's really coming together. Monomoy Girl, Wonder Godot, Wonder Gadot. I'm going to say Gadot now on because that's how Gal Gadot pronounces her name. So I'll give you props on getting that right, Matt, as usual. Midnight Bassoux, they were huge 2 weekends ago. We talked about Red Ruby. Could she join this upper echelon of excellent 3-year-old fillies of 2018 in the Delaware Oaks? I'd say she did.
Yeah, she sure did, Brian. It was a decent field there at Delaware Park, and Red Ruby got back to her winning ways in such a very big way. She ran a big one coming around the final turn, heading into the home stretch. She ran down Coach Rocks, who, as we know, is a very nice horse in her own right, and just blew past that horse, running down the middle of the track, which was supposedly the best part of the track there, and opened up to a big, big victory that earned a big speed figure for a 3-year-old a filly of 104 on the Buyer's speed scale. So now we got another one to throw in this spectacular 3-year-old filly division.
Paco Lopez was sitting on a keg of dynamite Saturday at Delaware Park, Matt. Obviously, he had a ton of confidence. You could see it in his body and his hands as she just ambled up to the leaders on the turn there at Delaware Park. I'll admit it, I'm a sucker for Tiznows. Tiznow seems to have some of the best looking horses out there. Not usually gray. This one's a very pretty gray filly. She just looks the part of a really good horse. And, her 2 big stakes wins before Saturday were both on sloppy tracks. I saw her run well on fast tracks at Churchill starting out last fall. Now we know for sure she can do it on a fast track. This was huge. 13 lengths, fast time, fast buy, big buyer, as you say. Let's put Red Ruby up there with Monomoy Girl, the leader of the division. But Wonder Gadot, Midnight Bassoux, certainly, and now Red Ruby nipping at the heels of Monomoy Girl. It's going to be an interesting summer as we head to Saratoga.
Yeah, and there are so many good races for those 3-year-old fillies to compete in.
Coaching Club American Oaks and Alabama coming up soon at Saratoga, as we said. Now let's get back to Belmont Park, Matt. Did you have a nice day at Belmont Park on Stars and Stripes Day?
I certainly did. It was a beautiful, beautiful weather day, and there were some absolutely bang-up big performances. As a matter of fact, most of the graded stakes on the Stars and Stripes card were won by just big open length performances. There was one nice, really head-to-head battle in there also.
Yeah, let's talk about that one first, Matt, because the Belmont Derby, the $1.2 million Belmont Derby Grade 1, was kind of the headliner of this huge card, and we got a doozy. And I was saying, Analyze It's going to turn the tables on Catholic Boy. Boy, was I wrong. Although, once again, at the 8th pole, I thought Analyze It, the really nice turf horse from Chad Brown, the son of Point of Entry, was home free. But, of course, Catholic Boy came back at him with a vengeance on the inside. Catholic Boy, a son of More Than Ready for Jonathan Thomas, did it again, came back, passed Catholic Boy late, got the nod in the Belmont Derby. What a race.
It was a great race, and we talked about the prep race for this, the Pennine Ridge, which had a very different kind of stretch run when Catholic Boy was on the lead, and Analyze It went by and opened up a length or so lead on that horse. But on that day, Catholic Boy, if you remember, changed paths, moved to the outside, and re-rallied to nip Analyze It at the wire. And we said, oh, geez, that was unusual kind of thing to happen. We'll never see anything like that again. Well, we saw it again in the Belmont Derby, except the whole thing happened and was much closer this time, Brian. Analyze It took the lead away from Catholic Boy, but didn't open up that margin of a length and a half. Got a head in front, got a neck in front, but Catholic Boy fought back. But this time, I don't know, I thought Analyze It was going to hold him off, but he didn't. Catholic Boy, Javier Castellano in the saddle, had him measured, and one last surge got Catholic Boy on the comeback victory again. So a horse that certainly, in my opinion, is showing his best on the grass.
Right. He had several dirt races to start the year, the son of More Than Ready. But, Matt, I think these are two really, really good young American turf horses. We can't say that every year, but these two, Catholic Boy, I'm a believer at Catholic Boy now after this one. This was a more normal looking race. The Pennine Ridge struck me as something odd went on there with Analyze It for him to just shorten stride and lose that lead so quickly. But this one was just a real ding-dong battle. Analyze It got ahead, and Catholic Boy proved how good he is and came right back at him. Two really, really good American turf horses. I'm psyched about the future of American turf racing if it's in the hands of horses like Catholic Boy and Analyze It. And proof of that is, I think, a really good European came over, Hunting Horn. He had every chance on the turn and at the top of the stretch. Horse who just rolled at Royal Ascot. He was getting Lasix for Aidan O'Brien, and he was no match for the top two Americans. Unfortunately, Hawkish, it looks like, as you surmised might happen, looked a little short going a mile and a quarter. He'll probably go back to mile and 16th distances. And my boy Jack really didn't fire, perhaps, after that tough campaign up and through the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, and there's lots of good things to come ahead for Hawkish, folks. With all the big mile races, and I don't know. Even though my boy Jack ran on the turf earlier in his career, I think he's going to be a better horse on the dirt.
Well, it certainly looks like that, and it certainly looks like Catholic Boy is a better turf horse, although he's now proven at a mile and a quarter with the questions on Justify. I think the Travers becomes an interesting possible scenario for Catholic Boy, who is a graded stakes winner on dirt. So it'll be very interesting to see where Catholic Boy goes next, because I know the connections are at least talking about dirt at Saratoga. I'm kind of hoping that this rivalry, this budding new American turf rivalry, Catholic Boy and Analyze It, goes on, because the first two were races to remember.
There's a lot of money on the table, though, in some big races for the 3-year-old colts on dirt.
True that, Matt, but I like the turf. Hey, but let's go to the dirt, because I think the biggest name running on Stars and Stripes Day going in actually was the romping winner of the UAE Derby, the little brother to Beholder, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf winner. Of course, I'm talking about Mendelssohn, who didn't run a lick in the Kentucky Derby. We wanted to see what he could do in his return in the 1 mile Dwyer. He actually went to the lead, but he was no match for the winner as soon as they straightened out.
He sure wasn't, Brian, and I think you're right that Mendelssohn maybe was the headliner on the whole card on Stars and Stripes Day, but no, he was no match for Firenze Fire. We remember Firenze Fire as the winner of the Champagne, which was also at Belmont Park, which was also a 1-turn mile, who then went on the Derby Trail and won a race at Aqueduct. Picked up some other points on the New York Derby Trail. Owner Ron Lombardo wanted to be in the Derby. They were in the Derby. And Firenze Fire probably ran better in the Derby than we anticipated. But given some time off, trainer Jason Service, who is about as hot as any trainer can possibly be, winning at amazing percentage clips both at Monmouth Park and Belmont, had Firenze Fire ready, and he unloaded a big race and just blew the field away, running a nice time, open lengths, and Mendelssohn ended up finishing what we have to describe as a disappointing third.
Yeah, once Firenze Fire blew by him in the stretch, the race, any chance of winning was over for Mendelssohn. He got passed down the lane for second. I don't think it's a death knell to his chances to still be a really, really good horse on dirt. But you have to wonder now. Originally, they were talking Penn Derby and then the Breeders' Cup Classic for Mendelssohn. Maybe they rethink it. Maybe they think about turf now a little bit more. But I imagine he'll be better next time. But still, a disappointing result for Mendelssohn. But for the winner, wow. And you mentioned Lombardo wanted to be in the Derby. Lombardo also wants to be in the Haskell. But I think Jason Service is going to open his eyes to the fact that this is a true 1-turn horse, obviously very good at 1-turn, rallying at 1-turn like he did here. We're talking 9 lengths win, Matt, and it was faster than just kind of fast. It was 133 and change. So this was a huge performance and maybe the biggest of a big day of performances. If he does stick at one turn, we should see him in the H. Allen Jerkins Memorial at Saratoga, formerly the King's Bishop, that Grade 1 7-furlong race on Travers Day. Hopefully, they won't go for the Haskell 2 turns at Monmouth Park, but we'll see. The Son of Poseidon's Warrior, obviously a talented one-turn horse, and maybe even a Breeders' Cup Sprint or Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, although the Dirt Mile is a little bit different configuration, of course, at Churchill Downs. I would like to see this one stick with sprinting, and hopefully he shows up in the Jerkins Memorial, Matt.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it was clear. We said it at points in the past that he looked like a one-turn horse. I think owner Lombardo's talking about the Haskell because he's a New Jersey guy.
Right. So Service probably wants to go 7 furlongs, and that's where I think we will see him next. Speaking of big performances at Belmont Park on Saturday, Matt, the historic Suburban Handicap took place, and it looked to have a wide open field, a lot of good horses. But in the end, from basically start to finish on this 1.25 miles where they start on the turn at Belmont Park, just like he did in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, same distance, same track last fall. It was all diversified, and he really galloped in this one.
He sure did. And just like Frenzy Fire, this is a horse that loves Belmont Park and has put his best foot forward at Belmont Park. Diversify, of course, is a New York bred. He came back to start this year with a very nice win in a New York bred stake. And he got in that 10 furlongs on that Belmont Park track, and he just took off and left the field behind him. All the horses that had run earlier in the year on the Belmont Stakes card, in the Brooklyn Handicap going 1.5 miles, just didn't have any punch left at the end of the race, and made it that much easier for Diversify to blow the field away.
Yeah, I think you make a good point here, Matt. First off, that configuration is a little strange, where they're actually starting on the turn, and I think often it does set up well for speed horses, but Diversify ran 109 and change, so he was booking out there on the fast track at Belmont Saturday. Having said that, War Story, who is by no means a speed horse, and a long shot were kind of the closest to him early, so I do think he had it pretty easy, even though he was running fast, and then he didn't have to run fast the rest of the way. In fact, he came home in just over 50 seconds for the last half mile, but that was more than enough to win this race easily. And yeah, those horses coming out of the Brooklyn, as you mentioned, 1.5 miles. We're talking about Take Your Guns, War Story, and of course the winner, Opportunity. None of them fired here. It happens coming out of 1.5 miles race. They were all dull. What about Taprick, the Belmont winner from last year? Another big question mark of the class of the 3-year-old crop of 2017. And Dr. Dorr had been so good recently in California. He showed neither a lot of speed nor a lot of desire to do much of anything in here. So it really did open the door for Diversify. Listen, fans, I wasn't on Diversify going into the race, so maybe I'll be a little bit more negative about it. It was a big performance, and as Matt says, Diversify and Frenzy Fire are truly horses who love Belmont Park. But away from Belmont Park, I still am going to question whether Diversify can beat the very best America has to offer.
Well, and the question is, Brian, what is the very best in the older male handicap division this year? It is it's a sketchy bunch at best, and looking ahead to the Breeders' Cup Classic now, especially as we referenced before, if Justify isn't in there, that's going to be interesting to see who shows up and who's got the goods to win the Classic this year.
Well, just looking at the older males, you have to start with Accelerate because he's been terrific this year. And of course, West Coast will still have his chance after good second-place finishes in the Pegasus Dubai World Cup. But even without Justify, it might open the door for other 3-year-olds this year. I think you're right. I was not on Justify, Matt, but I was on Athena. I'm really surprised that she was let go at 10-1 in the Belmont Oaks. And she did her thing because as the speed started to back up in this 1.25 mile test, she just rolled right by. Easy winner. And this came 6 days after she ran a big one against older fillies in Ireland.
Yeah, and Athena got the win for Team Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore. Aidan O'Brien hadn't had a particularly good record shipping horses into New York, not nearly as well as he's done shipping horses into the Breeders' Cup. So Athena came up big. I think you had a very nice exacta with Athena and the second place horse in there, The Way I Am, who rallied up the rail to get second place. Some of the other horses who were more favored by the bettors in there that we had mentioned were leading the race, going around into the turn, horses like La Signare, Antoinette, but they faded a little bit and couldn't keep their momentum.
That's right. The early pace, I think, was a little bit tough. La Signare, who was my top pick here last week, was bet down a little bit, although reasonable odds. And the horse she beat, Significant Form, I guess, was a lukewarm favorite. And Antoinette, who was well bet, was there. Paved really didn't fire, and the horses that were up early backed up. But it was all about Athena, well-bred horse coming from Europe for the usual suspects as far as connections. 6 days though, Matt, that's something we don't see in America, and the Europeans weren't afraid to do it, and it paid off in a big way because obviously she was sharp and ready and running well, and she proved it in the Belmont Oaks. I'm not sure where we'll see her again in America, but after this one, I have to suspect that she will be back in the United States for another big turf race sooner or later.
Yeah, Aidan O'Brien's got so many good horses, and he's not afraid to take shots in big races anywhere in the world.
All right, Matt, we've talked about a bunch of big mile-and-a-quarter races, that huge performance by Firenze Fire, but let's not forget about the sprinters, because in the Belmont Sprint, I think we saw one of my favorite things to see. I know there was a little bit of scary moment in there, but we saw some real veteran sprinting warriors just lay it on the line and give us their all. I'm talking about, of course, Limousine Liberal and Whitmore. Both had trouble as they were straightening out. Whitmore bounced off a horse, bounced off the rail, and still kept coming, took the lead. But Limousine Liberal, who had to wait, was bumped and squeezed, and then finally got running room, ran him down late. Terrific race in the Belmont Sprint, Matt.
It was. The Belmont Sprint was 7 furlongs. It was actually the only win-and-you're-in race on that star-studded card. But like you said, neither Whitmore nor Limousine Liberal had great trips, but Whitmore was able to find a path. He got the first run at the early speed and was able to get the lead, 100 or so yards away from the wire. But Limousine Liberal was making the second run, which turned out to be the best run, and he was able to just get by Whitmore just in front of the wire, earning a spot in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. The connections, the trainer Ben Colebrook said that they were going to go to the Breeders' Cup anyway, but now they have a free trip in. And for Colebrook, it was his first winner in New York, so it was really big for that trainer in a lot of ways. Yeah,
Ben Colebrook, Limousine Liberal, they're here. They're based in Kentucky. Limousine Liberal's been a Kentucky horse all along, but he will travel for the big races, and he's been doing it now for several years. Limousine Liberal 6, Whitmore 5, 2 of the hardest knocking, top-notch sprinters we have in America. I'm sure both will be back. Ronnie Moquette trains Whitmore, of course, and he's based at Kentucky parts of the year as well. They'll both be in the Breeders' Cup Sprint. I don't have any doubt about that. And they'll be 2 of the horses to watch. I've said all along, Limousine Liberal is just a monster when it's a wet track, but I tell you what, as good as he's been this year, he looks better than ever now at 6. 4 big performances, even the third in the Met Mile, you'd have to say was a strong performance for Limousine Liberal. He really, truly is one of the best sprinters in America. You knew he was going to reel in Whitmore late, even though Whitmore ran well. Wonderful race to watch. And Matt, talking about all these wonderful horses we saw last weekend reminds me of the exciting news that we have in our new venture, Derby Day Racing. Of course, we've started a racing partnership, as most of you already know. We did welcome the first 2-year-old to our barn. We are super excited about Sooner Schooner. She's a really good-looking daughter of Looking at Lucky, and she joined the barn of Buff Bradley on Sunday. So, Matt, thrilling news for Derby Day racing, for us, for our partners, and hopefully we got a really nice filly here.
Yep, all of the news that we have is that she's got a lot of great qualities, a nice big long stride, a great personality. When she's out on the track, she's light on her feet. So these are all things that point to a horse that that's going to be better for two-turn races and probably have a long career. So we're looking forward to her making her first start in the fall, and we've still got some room for some of you fans to join us in our partnership, get together with some friends and buy a share.
Yeah, this is a filly I've wanted for some time. We got him from Mulholland Springs Farm. Thanks to Robert Noloff Jr. for tipping me off on her. And yeah, everything that you mentioned there is what I saw. And then, of course, Buff Bradley liked what he saw when he got to see her. So all good news on her. Matt, we're already going to start looking for our second one to join the barn right about now. So hopefully we'll have a second one to join her soon. But exciting news at Derby Day Racing. Hey, Matt, let's talk about what's happening this weekend. It might not have the sizzle of last weekend, but there are some big races around the country. California Los Al Derby. King Zachary looks like he might be the horse to beat here in the Indiana Derby. I'll be there Saturday evening for that one. But I think the race that most interests me of the weekend is the historic Delaware Handicap and the return of a late.
Yeah, Brian, and you called it the historic Delaware Handicap because this 10 furlong race has had some great winners in recent history. Horses like Songbird, Royal Delta winning it twice. One of your favorites, Brian, Blind Luck, and Life at 10. And we got trainers in the race like Belmont, who of course won twice with Royal Delta, and Todd Pletcher's in here with Unbridled Mo seeking his 5th win in the Delaware Handicap. So lots of history, lots of quality in that in the big race at Delaware Park.
Great recent history, Matt. And if you go back decades and decades, it has a great history before then. I've been watching this race all my life growing up in New Jersey, so I'm excited for this. It's also the classic distance of 1.25 miles. While a lot of big races over the years have dropped down in distance, the Delaware Handicap has been true to their 1.25 miles distance, and I think that only helps the favorite a late. Now, she's returning after quite a layoff. She hasn't run since a 4th, a decent enough, but a little disappointing 4th when she traveled out to Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup. Distaff, of course, won by Forever Unbridled. That came after, though, a series of really good races. I think she likes 1.25 miles. I expect Belmont to have her ready for this test because it is a pretty big race to win. And if she can get back to performances like she showed last year in the Coaching Club American Oaks, the Alabama at 10 furlongs, and that scintillating win in the Belmont, the Beldame at Belmont, we're going to look for a very good filly to come back this year.
Yeah, and throw in the fact that she did win at Delaware Park the year before, so we know that this horse likes that surface. Folks, there's always question marks when a horse comes back from a big layoff in here. But if she's on the top of her game, she's going to be hard to beat. Field shapes up like there's a lot of speed in there, Brian, with horses like Farrell in there, who has run well in the past. This year has been showing a lot of speed, but fading, and the extra distance looms that she's probably a pace setter in there. So if a late doesn't come back 100%, I think we might be looking at some horses to come from behind to spring an upset.
Absolutely, Matt. And I'm going to talk about a late just a little bit more because, we saw her in her debut performance at Aqueduct a little less than 2 years ago, and that was a wow performance, a physical specimen, the daughter Medagliadora, out of a nice distorted humor mare. She just got really good this time last year. She may have spun her wheels a little bit early in her sophomore season, but she became quite the monster later in the year. And I think, if she's mentally into this racing thing again at 4, I expect her to only be better this year and quickly join Unique Bella and Abel Tasman as as the top older females in the country. Now, like you said, there is a bunch of speed. Luch Racing has what looks to be 2 rabbit types in there to keep Farrell company. I don't know about you, but Unbridled Mo, the second choice, even though she's won 7 of 11 lifetime, I don't like her quite as much at 10 furlongs. And, Mopetism, also an Uncle Mo, probably not for me either at this distance. Farrell with the other speed makes it tough for her. So, yeah, as you mentioned, Ralliers, Furiously Kissed, the third horse from Luch Racing, she can run. Teresa Z, the winner of the local prep, is a talented filly, and I think both of them should get a little bit of money. One long shot I'm looking at here, Matt, is another closer. Sneaky Betty was beaten by Teresa Z last time, but she likes to come from well back. She's never been better. I think she's going to be 30 or 40 to 1 in here. So I'd like to put a few dollars on Sneaky Betty to sneak into the exacta or trifecta.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and I like Teresa Z in here. Coming from off the pace for St. Elias Stable for our friend Vinny Viola. But as I said, if Alate's on the top of her game, I think they might be running for second place.
Amen, brother. Alate is that kind of horse, a really, really class animal. So let's see her come back in good form in the Delaware Handicap. All right, that's our preview for the Del Cap on Saturday. Enjoy it there at Delaware Park, folks. Like I said, I will be at Indiana Grand on Saturday evening. Stop by, say hello, shake my hand, tell me how much you like or dislike HorseCenter here, or tell me how much Matt Schiffman is the strong half of this partnership. Either way, I'm happy to meet you out there at Indiana Grand. And Matt, we also need to thank our sponsorship, Derby Wars, the best contest site out there. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you haven't done already, why not? Subscribe to our YouTube channel right here on Horse Racing Nation. Matt, you're in Maine now. I know you're getting excited, though, because Saratoga is just over a week away.
That's for sure, Brian. I'll be home in New Jersey on the weekend, unpacking my bags, doing some washing, then packing back up to head to Saratoga. I'll be there the first few weeks, and I'm sure you and I will talk a little bit more about the racing season during our next show. And, of course, we have to thank our friend and our producer, Brett Workman, for putting together the show.
Weeks at Saratoga, Matt. I'm more than just a little bit jealous of your wonderful lifestyle. Enjoy Saratoga. Thank you for watching, folks. Thank you to Brett Workman for producing. We will be back again. Hopefully next week we'll be back on Tuesday. Technology willing. We'll see you again soon.